Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on system of equations. And again, these videos I meant to really explain everything to the simplest form so you can really understand it, and also provide you with different ways of solving this in the quickest way during an exam, so you can save a little bit of time. So let's get started with our first question here. Example, y equals negative 6x minus 2 and y equals 3x plus 7. So system of equations is when you are given two independent equations like this, and they are related and they ask you to solve for x and y. So in this scenario we're going to be solving for x and y. That is the question. So first what we're going to do is we're going to take one product of y. It doesn't matter which one, but in this case I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to plug it into the second equation, and I'll solve for x. And let's go ahead and do that. So when I replace negative 6x minus 2 in place of the y, I'm going to get negative 6x minus 2 equals 3x plus 7. And now we're going to group like terms. So negative 6x and 3x are like terms. So let's try to bring it to one side of the equation. So I'm going to just rewrite negative 6x. And whenever this a different term crosses this equation sign to the other side of the equation, it's going to become the opposite charge. So in this scenario, this is positive. So when it crosses the equal sign, it's going to be negative charge. So it's going to be negative 3x equals 7. And same as this one, this is negative 2. When it crosses this equal sign to the other side, it's going to be the opposite charge. So it's going to be positive 2. And negative 6x minus 3x is going to be negative 9x equals 9. And 9, in order to solve for x, we're going to divide by negative 9 and this side by negative 9. Negative 9 is going to cancel negative 9, you get 1. And 9 is going to cancel 1, you also get 1. In this scenario, is going to be a negative. So x is going to be negative 1. So now that we have negative x, what we can do to solve for y is either pick in equation 1 or equation 2 and just plugging in negative 1 to find y. So in this situation, I'm going to choose the first equation, which is y equals negative 6x minus 2. And I'm going to plug in negative 1 in place of x to solve for y. So I'm going to rewrite the equation as y equals negative 6, parentheses, negative 1 minus 2. Y equals negative 6 times negative 1 is going to be a positive 6. And a positive 6 minus 2. So y equals 6 minus 2 will be 4. So y is going to be 4. So in this situation, our answers will be x equals negative 1 and y equals 4. All right, let's go ahead and solve more problems here. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So another example will be y equals 5x minus 4 and y equals negative 3x plus 12. This is going to be our equation 1 and this is going to be our equation 2. Now if you want to challenge yourself, go ahead and pause the video and try to solve this and come back to see whether we get the same answer. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick either equation 1 or equation 2 and I'm going to plug it into the opposite equation. So in this case, let's go ahead and pick equation 2 and plug it into equation 1. So I'm going to take this product right here and I'm going to plug it into the first equation for y in order to solve for x. So I'm rewriting the first equation. When I plug in this product, I will get negative 3x plus 12 equals 5x minus 4. And now we have to group like terms. So our like terms are negative 3x and positive 5x. We have to group it in the same side of the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this this positive 5x into the other side. And whenever I do that, it becomes the opposite charge. So it's going to be a negative when it crosses this equal sign. So I'm going to rewrite the equation as negative 3x. This is a positive 5x. When it crosses over, it's going to be a negative 5x. And equals negative 4. And same thing for this one. This is a positive 12. When it crosses over to the other side of the equation, it's going to be a negative opposite charge, which will be a negative 12. And negative 3x minus negative 5x will be negative 8x equals negative 4 minus negative 12 will be a negative 16. And now by solving for x, we can divide both sides of the equation by negative 8. This by negative 8. Negative 8 cancel negative 8, you get 1. And negative sign cancel negative sign, and 8 goes into 16 twice. So our x will be 2. And now that we have x, what we can do is plug it into either equation 1 or equation 2 for x in order to solve for our y. So in this situation, I'm going to pick the first equation. So y equals 5x minus 4. When I plug x into this equation for x, I'll get y equals 5 times 2 minus 4. And y equals 5 times 2 will be 10 minus 4. And y is going to be 6. So in this situation, our final answer is going to be x equals 2 and y equals 6. All right, now let's do another problem here. Our third problem is y equals 2x minus 10 and 3x equals 3x plus 2y equals 1. So this one, the first equation is going to be our equation 1, and the second one is going to be our equation 2. For this problem, we have y as a product, which is 2x minus 10. What we're going to do is we're going to plug this product into the second equation for y and solve for x. So I'm going to plug this one into for y, and I'll solve for x. So by rewriting equation 2, it's going to be 3x plus 2y equals 1. And I'm going to plug in y, which is going to be 3x plus 2, parentheses 2x minus 10 equals y. And now let's go ahead and break it down. So it's going to be 3x plus 2 times 2x will be 4x. 2 times 10 will be a negative 20 equals 1. Now we have like terms, which is 3x and 4x. So 3x plus 4x is going to give us 7x equals 1. And now we have a negative 20. When it crosses this to the opposite side of the equation, is going to be an opposite charge, which is going to be a positive 20. And now we can rewrite this as 7x equals 21. When we divide both sides by 7 in order to get x, 7 goes into 21 3 times. So it's going to be x equals 3. All right. And now that we have x, what we can do is either plug it into either equation 1 or equation 2 to solve for y. So let's go ahead and pick equation 2. So we're writing equation 2 as 3x plus 2y equals 1. So when I plug in 3 for x, I'll get 3 times 3 plus 2y equals 1. 3 times 3 is going to be 9 plus 2y equals 1. Now we're going to group like terms. The 2y is not like, it's different from the y, the 1 and the 9. So now we can group like terms by rewriting the equation as 2y equals 1. We're going to bring this 9 to the opposite side of the equation to make friends with 1, which is like 1. So we're going to go ahead and move this 9 all the way to this side, and it's going to be an opposite charge. So it's going to be a negative 9 once it crosses this equation sign. And I'm going to rewrite this equation as 2y equals a negative 8. And when we divide both sides by 2, in order to get y, 2 cancel 2, you get 1. And 2 goes into 8 4 times. So now we have our y equals negative 4. So our answers will be x equals a positive 3 and y equals a negative 4. All right. Hopefully you did challenge yourself and hopefully you got the same answer that I got. So let's go ahead and do another problem here. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Alright. So our next problem will be y equals x plus 3 and negative 2x minus 4y equals 12. Our first one being equation 1 and our second one being equation 2. So again, what we're going to do is we can take one product. In this scenario, we're going to take x plus 3 and we're going to plug it into equation 2 for y in order to solve for x. So let's rewrite equation 2 as negative 2x minus 4, open parentheses, x plus 3, close parentheses, equals 12. All right, so let's break it down a little bit further. We're writing this as negative 2x. Negative 4 times x will be a negative 4x. Negative 4 times 3, negative 4 times 3 will give you a negative 12 equals 12. Now we have to group like terms. Our like terms are a negative 2x and negative 4x, which will be a negative 6x. And now we're going to group the 12 and negative 12 on the other side of the equation. So it's going to be equals 12. When negative 12 crosses over to the other side of the equation, it's going to be an opposite charge. So in this situation, it's going to be plus 12. All right. And then we're writing this equation as negative 6x equals 24. And when we divide both sides by negative 6, 6 goes into 24 4 times. So it's going to be x equals negative 4. So now that we have x, we're going to plug it into either equation 1 or equation 2. In this situation, I'm going to pick equation 1. So we're writing equation 1 as y equals x plus 3. Y equals, plug in negative 4 for x will be a negative 4 plus 3. And I'll get y equals negative 1. So our final answer will be negative x equals negative 4 and y equals negative 1. All right, let's go ahead and do another problem. Our next problem is y equals 3x minus 4 and negative 2x plus 2y equals a negative 8. Our first one being equation 1 and our second being equation 2. So in this situation, I'm going to pick this product, which is 3x minus 4. I'm going to plug it into the second equation for y in order to solve for x. So we're writing equation 2 as negative 2x plus 2, open parentheses, 3x minus 4 equals negative 8. Let's go ahead and break this down a little bit further as negative 2x plus 2 times 3x will be 6x, and 2 times a negative 4 will be negative 8 equals negative 8. Now we're going to group like terms. So negative 2x and positive 6x are like terms, so we can go ahead and add them together. So negative 2x plus 6x will be a positive 4x equals, now we're going to bring this negative 8 to the other side of the equation. So it's going to be 4x equals negative 8. When this negative 8 crosses over to the other side of the equation, you're going to get a positive 8. So it's going to be positive 8. And now we're going to rewrite this equation as 4x equals 0. And when we divide both sides by 4, 4 cancel, 4 is 1, and x equals 0 divided by any number will be 0. So it's going to be x equals 0. Alright, now that we have x as 0, we can plug it into either equation 1 or equation 2. In this situation, I'm going to pick equation 2 and plug in for x as 0 and solve for y. So we're writing equation 2 as negative 2x plus 2y equals negative 8. And when I plug in x for 0, I get negative 2 times 0 plus 2y equals negative 8. Negative 2 times 0 will be 0. So I get a positive 2y equals negative 8. And when I divide both sides by 2, 2 cancel, 2 as 1, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So it's going to be y equals a negative 4. So for this problem, our answers will be x equals 0 and y equals negative 4. Alright. So let's go ahead and solve another problem. And once again, every time I write it down, if you want to challenge yourself and take a little bit of moment and try to see whether you can solve this by yourself and come back to see whether you get the same answer that I get. So our next problem will be 2x minus 2y equals negative 6. And y equals negative 3x minus 1. Our first one being equation 1 and our second being equation 2. In this instance, I'm going to pick the product of the second equation and plug it into the first equation in order to solve for x. So I'm going to pick this value. I'm going to plug it in for x on the first equation. And in rewriting the first equation, I'll get 2, open parentheses, 3, 2x minus 2, open parentheses, negative 3x minus 1 equals negative 6. Breaking down this a little further, we get 2x, negative 2 times a negative 3x will be a positive 6x. And negative 2 times a negative 1 will be a positive 2 equals negative 6. Now we have like terms, which is 2x and 6x. So we're going to add them together to get 8x. And now let's group like terms for us 2 and negative 6. So it's going to be equals negative 6. when this positive 2 crosses over to the other side of the equation, we're going to get an opposite charge. So it's going to be a negative 2. And it's going to be 8x equals negative 8. When we divide both sides by 8, 8 cancel 8, we get 1, and x will be negative 1. Alright, now that we have x, we can solve for y. In this situation, I'm going to plug it into equation 2 in order to solve for y. So let's rewrite equation 2 as y equals negative 3x minus 1. Y equals negative 3, open parentheses, negative 1 minus 1. And breaking down this further, negative 3 times negative 1 will be a positive 3 minus 1. Y will be positive 2. So our final answers will be x equals negative 1 and y equals positive 2. Alright, so I hope you got this as our final answers. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more problems. Let's go ahead and erase this. Alright, so next problem will be negative 4x minus 4y equals 8. And then y equals x plus 10. First one being equation 1, and the second one being equation 2. So in this situation, I'm going to pick the product of the second equation, which is x plus 10. I'm going to plug it into the first equation to solve for y. Alright. So let's go ahead and rewrite our first equation as negative 4x minus 4, open parentheses, x plus 10 equals 8. And when we break this further down, we're going to get negative 4x minus, negative 4 times x will be a negative 4x. And negative 4 times positive 10 will give us a negative 40 equals 8. In grouping like terms, negative 4x minus negative 4x will be a negative 8x equals 8. When this negative 40 crosses over to the other side of the equation, it's going to be an opposite charge. So it's going to be a positive 40. And then it's going to be negative 8x equals 48. And then when we divide both sides by negative 8, negative 8 cancel negative 8, you get 1. 8 goes into 48 6 times. So x will be x equals negative 6. Alright, great. We have x now. Let's go ahead and plug it into either one of the equations so we can solve for y. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the first equation. So I'm going to rewrite the first equation as negative 4x minus 4y equals 8. And plugging in negative 6, I'll get negative 4, open parentheses, negative 6 minus 4y equals 8. And negative 4 times negative 6 will be a positive 24 minus 4y equals 8. Now we're going to group like terms. The 24 and 8 are like terms, so we're going to bring it to one side of the equation. It doesn't matter whether we bring it to the right or to the left. So in this situation, I'm going to bring it to the left. So let's go ahead and rewrite this as 24. This is a positive 8. When it crosses over to the other side of the equation, I'm going to get a negative 8. Equals, and this negative 4, when it crosses over to the other side of the equation, it's going to be an opposite charge. So it's going to be a positive 4y. 24 minus 8 will be 16 equals 4y, and 4y divided by 4, 16 divided by 4, 4 cancel, 4 as 1, and 4 goes into 16 4 times. So our y will be 4. So our final answers are x equals -6 and y equals +4. All right. Let's go ahead and solve the last problem here. So I'm gonna erase this. Our last problem will be -3x plus 3y equals -6, and y equals -3x plus 10. Again, if you want to go ahead and challenge yourself, take a moment and see whether you can solve this and come back to see whether we have the same answers. So let's go ahead and pick the product of the second equation, which is -3x plus 10. I'm going to plug it into the first equation, and I'm going to solve for x. Alright, so let's go ahead and rewrite our first equation as -3x plus 3y equals -6. And I'm going to go ahead and plug it in as -3x plus 3 open parentheses, -3x plus 10 close parentheses equals -6. And when I break this down, it's going to be a +3 times -3 will be a -9. So -9x, and a +3 times a +10 will be a +30 equals -6. Now we're going to go ahead and group like terms. So our like terms here are -3x minus 9x, which will be a -12x equals, now let's group the other like terms on the other side of the equation. So it's going to be -6. When this 30 crosses over to the other side of the equation, it's going to be an opposite charge. So it's going to be a -30. So it's going to be -30. So let's go ahead and simplify this further down, as -6 minus -30 will be -36. And when we divide both sides by -12, this cancel, negative signs cancel each other, and 12 goes into 36 3 times. So it's going to be x equals 3. So now we're going to plug it into either one of the equations. In this situation, I'm going to pick equation 2. So I'm going to rewrite equation 2 as y equals -3x plus 10. When I plug x for 3, I'll get y equals -3, open parentheses, 3 plus 10. And simplifying this down, -3 times 3 will be 9. And -9 plus 10, and y equals +1. So our answers will be x equals +3 and y equals +1. Alright, this is going to conclude our system of equation problems. I really hope this was helpful. Once again, my goal is to really make this as simple as possible, so you can solve it really quickly on an exam or quiz in class. If you have any other questions, you can just tag it below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.